It's Been So Long. An Adrienette Fanfiction, Part 19. Marinette scanned over the bag in her hands. She had packed everything, right? Snacks, water, hair dyes, power bank, my phone. What else do I need? Marinette asked Tiki. Tiki shook her little head. Stargazing is pretty easy. I doubt you want to lug a microscope up on the rooftop, she teased. Marinette laughed a little. No, I really don't. Marinette picked up the note that she was going to leave for her parents and opened the trapdoor quietly. Mari? She heard her Kwame call. Yeah? She asked mindlessly. You forgot me. Tiki stopped moving and a red blush went across her cheeks. Oh, right, she said with an embarrassed laugh. She opened the door a bit wider so Tiki could fly into her bag. Sorry, she said, and Tiki only laughed at it. You're just excited. It's okay, she said. Marinette nodded. I am. Adrienne's a great friend, and even though we haven't talked much in the past week, Marinette said, she was way too panicked during the week to actually have a fun conversation with her friends. With the apparently misplaced Akuma panic and the fact that she needed to finish a dress because she was going back to New York in the next couple of weeks, she was way too occupied. Luckily, her friends understood and didn't get mad at her for being really busy. The sleepover with her girlfriends were fun, though. It really gave her a sense of normalcy that she desperately needed. Marinette was excited to go look at the stars with Adrienne. She hoped it would be like a reset, calming her mind down and giving her a minute to breathe. Yeah, I'm sure he understands. He's a great friend after all, Tiki said with a giggle. Marinette looked at her confused, eyebrows crinkled and head tilted to the left. What? She said, but Tiki just laughed again. Go! The longer we stay, the higher chance that your parents will catch you, the Kwame said. Marinette nodded and set down the letter on the dinner table. Heading back up, she made her bed neatly and transformed. Jumping off the window, she felt the cold Paris air hit her. If she wasn't moving so much, she'd probably be shivering. Ladybug smiled, knowing that she had warm blankets and a heater on the rooftop. Noir wasn't out tonight. Sometimes he was, and most of the time she was able to duck out of his line of vision. It was truly a miracle that he had yet to see her on her way to the building. Landing on the building rooftop, she went up the stairs and down the stairs and detransformed inside so that the bright light wouldn't attract people. Here, Marinette said, handing the cookie to Tiki. I wonder how Adrienne's gonna get here, she wondered idly as Tiki silently ate her cookie. He's under lock and key 24/7, Marinette continued her thought out loud as she walked up the stairs. I'm sure he has a way, Tiki said slightly nervously. Yeah, I guess if I can figure it out, then his dad can too. I just really hope he doesn't get caught, Marinette sighed, turning on the large heater and pulling a blanket over herself. Pulling out her phone, Marinette clicked it on to check the time. 12:38. They had planned to meet sometime after 1. I'm surprised you told Adrienne about this place, Tiki commented after a silent minute. Marinette smiled a bit. Yeah, honestly, same. I really wasn't planning on it, but then I guess in the moment I just wanted to share it with him. Really glad I did, though, Marinette mused happily. That's good, Tiki said, and promptly flew into Marinette's bag and nuzzled into a small blanket and pillow set by it. Hey, a voice shouted from the stairs. Marinette sprung up to greet him. Hey, Adrienne, I'm glad you can come. 1 a.m. meetings are hard to make, she said with a laugh. I wouldn't miss it for the world, he responded with a large smile. Marinette pointed to the blankets and pillows settled on the couch. There's water and some cookies on the table, she said, motioning towards the coffee table. Thank you. You really didn't have to. Adrien said, making his way over and spreading the blanket over himself. It's surprisingly warm up here, he commented after a second. Marinette nodded in agreement. Heaters are great when the weather starts getting cold, Marinette said. It was awkwardly silent for a couple of seconds. Marinette's mind raced for something to talk about, but he beat her to it. How are you feeling with everything that's happened? Adrien asked tentatively. Marinette understood that he meant Aiden and the breakup. It's still, a little weird. Everything feels a little weird, but I don't think I regret it. Aiden's a great guy, just not the one for me, she explained. Adrien nodded. We haven't talked much in the past week or so, he said with a slight laugh. Marinette shook her head. We haven't. So, what's new with you? Any new lines to model? She asked. Adrien shrugged. Right now there's really just some magazine photos. That's all kind of old and boring, he sighed, looking out in the distance. Wow, it looks beautiful here at night. It was like a living dream during the day, but now, wow. I really feel like I'm in a movie, or maybe a dramatic TV show. Adrien gaped at the view. Marinette nodded in agreement and slightly laughed. Yeah, it's crazy how just being a little higher up and a time switch can really change your whole world. I feel like I'm on top of the world. It really does give you that feeling. Adrien turned back to her and gave her a shy smile. Thank you for showing me this place. You said I'm the only one that knows about it? Marinette felt her face get warm, something that didn't happen often nowadays. Of course, she said, tugging at the 2 hair ties in her hair. It had been a while since she had worn the 2 pigtails. Alia commented on it today, saying it was a familiar sight for her, and that she still thought they were cute. Nino tugged on one like a little kid. Everyone asked her why she decided to bring out the old hair, and she told them that she just wanted to. In reality, she just thought it might be fun to bring in the old Marinette. Since she was hanging out with Adrien already, she may as well make old Marinette scream and wear her old look. Marinette almost laughed out loud. She had invited Adrien to hang out under the stars at 1 a.m. Her old self, her a year ago, would have seen him in front of her and bolted straight out here, no questions asked, to be alone. Now she was here with him, alone. Marinette felt like she was fulfilling some kind of past dream. How have you been doing? Adrien asked, snapping her out of her thoughts. Oh, it's good. A little stressful, though. I have a couple things to finish for New York. I'm going back in a couple weeks. It's really helping my stress levels, actually. I feel calmer already, she said with a smile. Is it me, or is it the view? Adrien said with a joking manner. Marinette cradled her chin with her thumb and forefinger. Of course. It's the view, she chuckled. I'm kidding. You're helping too. It's nice to be up here with you. Marinette almost threw herself back. She wanted to say, it's nice to be here with a friend, but that's not the word that came out. Instead, what she said seemed more intimate and private. That he was not just some other friend, but that he was some specific person she chose to spend her night with. Honestly, it was true, but Meredith didn't really want to keep entertaining the idea because of her past feelings for him and the predicament she was kind of set in at the moment. She gingerly looked at him, and clearly he was in shock by what she said too. She had to make things strained, didn't she? Glad I could help, he said smoothly, and Marinette let go of a breath that she didn't know she was holding, as well as the edges of the blanket she was crushing in her hands. Are you excited to go back to America? The blonde asked. Marinette sighed dreamily, thinking about the busy business city of New York. Very much so. It was one of the best years of my life. And believe me, it's a tough competition. I've had 16, the black-haired girl joked. Adrian burst out laughing. Wow, so many. Must have been a hard pick. He went along with her charade. It was. Do you have a favorite year? She asked. Adrian spoke without hesitation. The year I started going to public school. Best year of my life, hands down. Marinette nodded, now realizing how obvious that answer was. Of course. That's when your life started, and you got more friends than just Chloe, she smiled. Adrian nodded. Exactly. I met you that year, actually. I met you that year, too. You were my third friend. The first day of school was the best day of my life, he said happily. Marinette cringed thinking back on that day. The chewing gum, him, Chloe, becoming Ladybug, saving the city, the rain, the umbrella, the falling in love. It probably didn't seem all that great at the time. I hated you from the moment we met, she said, a slight blush spreading across her cheeks that she hoped was concealed by the warm yellow lights. Yeah, but then you decided that you didn't hate me, and that was pretty awesome. The blonde kept a positive spin with a smile. Marinette nodded in agreement. I certainly don't hate you now, she said. Adrian laughed. I know. Or at least I figured. I'm here on this roof with you after all. Marinette nodded her head and looked back at the sky. It was probably time to turn off the lights. They had been talking for a while. So she got up and unplugged them and plugged them all, not giving Adrian a warning for the fun of it. Hey! He cried when everything went dark. Marinette heard a click and saw a beam of light at her. Good thing I brought a flashlight because you were trying to blind me, he joked. Marinette placed her hands on her hips and stuck her tongue out at him. I'm just turning the lights off so we can see the stars, she explained with a grin, laying out the blanket in front of the table and laying herself on the ground, rooftop. Coulda done it with the warning, Adrian said with a sing-song voice. Marinette rolled her eyes, though he couldn't see it. Oh, hush, she snapped with a playful tone in her voice. Or I could not, Adrian said in a voice that said he was clearly towing the line, and he knew it. Marinette giggled slightly, though it was a burst of nervous laughter. She knew another person that liked to use that tone of voice. Chat Noir loved messing with her when she was Marinette. Whenever she told him to stop doing something, he'd just say something along the lines of, "Aw, I don't want to," and either had a mischievous smile on his face or a puppy dog pout. The former was a much more common occurrence, but the latter was kind of ironic. That cat had a pretty solid, sad puppy dog eye look. Sometimes it worked on her, sometimes not. Whoa, Adrian said. Marinette guessed he was looking up at the stars. They're bright, he said mindlessly, making Marinette laugh. Yeah, we can see the brightest ones right now. The rest come out when all the lights go off, Marinette explained, placing her hands under her head like a makeshift pillow. There are so many stars, Adrian said in awe. Marinette nodded. There are. And there are tons of constellations, like 88 or something. Adrian gasped and looked in her direction. Really? Do you know any? He asked excitedly like a young child. Marinette laughed. Yeah, it's kind of hard to show you them all now, but there are a couple that have almost all their stars, she said, her eyes scanning the sky for any mostly complete constellations. Like there. There's the North Star. It's at the end of the Big Dipper, Marinette pointed up in the air, not realizing that Adrian was confused. What is? He asked. Marinette pointed up even more. There, she said. Adrian was still very puzzled. I don't think we're seeing it from the same angle. Can I "Can I come down over to you?" Adrienne asked. She couldn't see it, but his face was bright red and he was thoroughly embarrassed by his own question. "Sure," Marinette said, and Adrienne gingerly brought over his blanket, spread it out, and laid down. "Right there," Marinette said again, and this time Adrienne was able to follow her hand and see the bright star. "Oh my God, it's so bright!" he gasped, and Marinette giggled next to him. "Yeah, people also call it Polaris," she explained. "And that's the Big Dipper?" Adrienne asked, excitedly tracing the shape with his finger, even though the stars were literally light years away from him. "Yeah. Let's see if we can find the Big Dip. Let's see if we can find the Little Dipper," Marinette said, scanning the sky again, but looked down the path of the North Star. It pointed out towards another constellation that was not the Little Dipper but was just as recognizable. "I think I see the Leo constellation." "It's the lion." Marinette traced the lion with her finger, though to say it was a lion was a stretch. People said it was one of the few constellations that resembled the animal it was named after, but Marinette was pretty sure they were exaggerating, because that was not the shape of a lion. She knew that for sure. "Wait, where is it?" Adrienne asked. He was in total wonder of the stars. Marinette wondered idly if he had ever taken the time to lay down in, say, the front of his yard and look up at the sky. Probably not, considering how strict his father was. Perhaps this was the first time Adrienne had ever inspected the sky above them. Adrienne never talked much about his mother, but from what he said, she was a wonderful person and parent. Maybe she'd taken him out as a child to show him the stars. Or maybe she hadn't. Again, Marinette had no sense of Emily Agreste. She didn't know much about constellations before coming back to Paris, though. She had just done a ton of research when she started coming to the rooftop. There really was no reason or time for her to look at the stars between school and Ladybug. Marinette idly wondered if that was the reason people didn't stargaze anymore. Not because of the bustling city lights. You could still see some stars, even with them. People were probably just too busy to take time and precious sleep hours to look at something so far away. They were beautiful, though. It made you either feel like you were a part of something bigger and greater, or that there was so much out there in the universe other than you and the people you're around. Marinette reached up and grabbed Adrienne's wrist. They both froze for a second. Marinette fought the thumping in her chest, and Adrienne collected his breath and fought the flush on his face. The black-haired girl began to move her hand, and collectively Adrienne's arm towards the Leo constellation. "There," she said softly. Adrienne looked at it in silence. "It doesn't look like a lion," he said. Marinette smiled and laughed a little. "No, it does not," she said. Adrienne lowly laughed, and Marinette could feel the vibrations through her hand. "It's still cool, though," he said. "Are there any more that you can see and recognize?" he asked, like a young child asking for another scoop of ice cream. Marinette hummed and looked through the stars. "There's Lyra," she said. "It's the constellation of Orpheus's lyre. He's from a Greek myth," Marinette explained. She really didn't know much about Greek mythology, but she did know some stories. Mostly love stories, like Hades and Persephone, Orpheus and his lost love, and a couple of others. "What is it?" Adrienne asked, and Marinette pursed her lips to a side. It's a sad love story. Basically, Orpheus's wife died, and he went to the underworld to try and save her, but ended up not trusting himself, so she stayed dead. It's more complicated than that and a lot sadder, but I don't really remember all of it," Marinette said, trying to think of the myth. "Oh, that's kind of sweet, though. Going to such lengths for the person you love," Adrienne said in a faraway voice, like he was thinking of someone else. Yeah, Marinette said, looking at Adrian, who was facing away from her. She could totally relate to Orpheus. A year ago today, she'd do the same thing for the blonde boy by her side that she was holding by the wrist in a heartbeat. Maybe she still would. They did say that your first love stuck with you forever. It was a slight occurrence, but Marinette noticed the lights in the building starting to turn off. It must be 2:20, Marinette murmured. Really? Adrian asked, snapping his eyes to the buildings. Sure enough, all the lights were off. Only far and few street lamps were lit for the driver's visions. Wow, it's so dark, Adrian said. Marinette giggled. Yeah, it is, she said. Adrian began to smile like a true troublemaker, though Marinette couldn't see it in the night. I guess that was pretty easy to see. He began to snicker while Marinette groaned that was terrible and smacked her forehead with her hand. Her other hand was still gripping Adrian's wrist. Her mind told her to let go, but she didn't. She couldn't. Something else told her to keep her hand there, and she listened to it for some weird reason. He hadn't made a move to shift it away either, so they kind of just stayed there. After his laughter died down, they both stayed in a comfortable silence, looking over the hundreds and millions of stars in the night sky. What's that constellation? Adrian asked, bringing their arms to the side and pointing to a double curved line of stars. Marinette looked at it for a while trying to think of which one it was. I think that's Andromeda, Marinette said after a while. She was honestly a little unconvinced herself. Oh, I know her, Adrian said. Marinette raised a brow. Really? Marinette asked, pleasantly surprised. Yeah, my mom told me the story about her and Perseus. She really liked that Greek hero. Apparently, he was one of the few that got a happy ending, Adrian explained. Marinette's mind went back to the question of whether or not Adrian had stargazed before. Can you tell me the story? Marinette asked, feeling like the roles were very much reversed. Sure. So, Perseus slew the Gorgon, the snake lady who turned people into stone. And then when he came back, he saw this really pretty princess chained up, and because her parents claimed that she was more beautiful than the sea god Poseidon's nymphs or whatever they are, so he got mad and chained her up, which made no sense because she didn't do anything. Perseus saw her and told her parents that he'd save her if he could marry her, and so they said he could, and she was saved. They ended up getting married and lived a long, happy life on some island. My mom told me this story years ago, so I don't remember all the details, and I was like 8, so there are some details she left out because Greek mythology is not fit for kids most of the time, Adrian said with a silent laugh. Marinette fully agreed. Some myths were not PG. That's good. That they lived a good and healthy, long life, Marinette commented. Slowly but surely, the lights started coming back, one by one, building after building until streets and architectures were lit up in a warm yellow light. Those 10 minutes went by fast, Adrian said, and Marinette agreed. Thank you for stargazing with me, Marinette said, settling her arm down. Thank you for inviting me. I've always wanted to do this. Ah, so there lays the answer to the question. My mom always wanted to take me out to some deserted forest or place and show me the stars. So thank you for pretty much achieving one of her goals, Adrian said, and Marinette could see the traces of a large smile on his face. I'm glad I could do that, even if I didn't realize it at first, Marinette said with a smile of her own. Adrian's arm was also down. In fact, it was right next to hers. Wherever it touched, Marinette felt a warmth. Despite the cold air at 2-something in the morning in Paris, she felt fuzzy and warmed. Was it because of Adrien being so close by her? She wasn't going to dig into it. Was it because Adrien's arm was almost on top of hers, hand on hand? Again, she was not going to try and figure it out, because that seems like just a recipe for disaster. I should probably head home, Adrienne muttered. Marinette felt herself frown. Maybe, so your dad or Natalie won't catch you out of bed, she forced out. Adrien nodded, his hand brushing atop hers again, making her blush red hot. He sat up slowly, and the black-haired girl followed suit. Thank you again for inviting me. This is probably the best night I've ever had, Adrien said, now standing. I'm glad it was. Marinette crossed her arms around her body, suddenly feeling the chilling air. Good night, she said with a cheery voice, although she was feeling rather disappointed that he couldn't stay for longer. Suddenly, she was not feeling so cold because there was a pair of strong, heat-radiating arms encircling her. Good night, Adrien whispered in her ear. Marinette couldn't help it. God, she melted! She melted into his arms, tightly wrapping her arms around his frame, though they didn't make it all the way around. Neither of them loosened their grips for God knows how long. They just stayed there, holding each other. After what seemed like a blessed lifetime, Adrien let go, and Marinette did too, begrudgingly. He gave her a dazzling model smile that she could somehow see in the darkness and waved goodbye. Marinette waved goodbye too and stood there still as he walked down the stairs. Again, she was cold. His warm body heat was no longer against her. It wasn't for another 5 or so minutes when Marinette did move or realize that she, possibly needed to breathe. When she did, Tiki turned back on the lights and flew up to her. Marinette? Tiki asked worriedly. I'm confused, Marinette gushed out. Tiki cocked her head to the left. Why? The Kwame asked, although she already knew the answer and knew that she'd be in for, a long night for the next couple of days or perhaps even weeks. Was that like an accidental date? Marinette gasped. Tiki wanted to roll her eyes. Two people who liked each other before and now liked each other's other half, kind of in Marinette's case, hanging out just by themselves under the stars at 2 a.m, hugging like there is no tomorrow and clearly feeling that there is something more there? Yeah, totally not a date. Tiki said instead of saying the more appropriate babble. Oh my goodness, Marinette groaned. She knew it. She'd be absolutely mental if she didn't. Or maybe she'd just be her 14-year-old self. She did not know anything back then. Good Lord, was Marinette Dupan Chang 100%, totally, completely screwed.